Welcome to the show this week. I'm Jamar.
And I'm AK.
You know,
Kamara.
My voice, oh, please. My voice sounds a little bit better. I'm getting better.
Yeah, you sound better.
I do. And no, for real, this is how, like, I can't sing anyway, but when I'm in the car and I try to sing,
yeah,
and my voice is coming back, when I can sing, then I know the voice is getting a little better, because today I was singing.
You hit them high notes?
Well, exactly, because I was telling the cats from In the Zone on Saturdays. I love that show, right? I know. I'm sorry.
No, it's a good show.
I love them. And I was telling them the other day, because they were talking about how the Vikings should be 6-2. They should be 6-2. You probably say that too. And I'm like,
we should.
Hell no. I'm glad I'm saying this too. I stand in front of the mirror and sing Luther Vandross songs. That don't make me Luther Vandross.
You're a little bit shorter.
I'm
a little bit thinner.
I'd be Lil Luther. Okay,
Lil Luther.
I'd be Lil Luther.
Lil Luther.
But that don't make me Luther.
That's true.
No. Goodness gracious, y'all should not be 6-2. What games have y'all been watching?
Listen, in the NFL right now, the Vikings we're the only team, right, that has led basically without winning, but we've led in every single game. Every single game we've led, and we're the only team. And on top of that,
What's that tell you?
it just means that we can't finish.
No,
we got good game plan. We got a young OC, right?
He's horrible.
He's young.
He's not his dad.
I know he's not.
He's not his dad.
He's good at game planning, but then we fall apart. But this last game, man, against the Chargers, it gave me hope. I saw that glimmer of a complete Vikings game.
No, then you shouldn't, because you should see that this is a Chargers team that's actually topsy-turvy. I mean, this is the game could. I knew that you guys would score points. Please, Q in the zone. I said it in the zone. You guys would score points.
Yeah.
But, I mean, like Carolina, you guys thought, okay, beating Carolina was good. No, it was a bad Carolina team. I want to see you guys beat somebody like Dallas.
Listen,
or
we got to
Green
start
Bay.
somewhere. We got to start
Green
somewhere.
Bay.
We got to start somewhere, and we beat
Well, a win is a win. You're right.
We beat our first team with a winning record.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I mean, luckily we got an extra game in the season, so we're getting ready to mount that comeback. We're gonna put it on them Packers this weekend, baby.
Well, I mean, look, it's a rival game, so I'm obviously I'm gonna
never know
talk
what happens
trash.
in a rival game.
But I do think that Aaron Rodgers, not playing last week and them getting that loss off, which helps us, and Tampa Bay losing helps us. So all that does is help Dallas. So I mean, personally, if you guys beat Green Bay, I'll be okay with that. But I think they're gonna beat you.
I don't think so.
Yes, they will.
That defense is going to dominate. You're going to see it.
Your defense hasn't dominated crap yet.
They're going to come alive, man, against some Packers.
Yeah.
You're going to see it.
Yeah, we see. Yeah, I'll see it on Madden.
Let's pay some bills. So you're checking out your wardrobe, right? Mm-hmm. We're switching into winter. Mm-hmm. It's getting there today. There were some snowflakes out there last week.
And today, what do you mean?
Today there was some snow.
Yeah.
So as you're going through your closet, cleaning it out, and you need to get geared up, please head to Just Imagine. Just Imagine is located in St. Paul off of 991 Payne Avenue. They have the best and hottest urban streetwear clothing for men and women. Frost Originals, Maccoby, George V. Paris, NBA Youngboy, $1 Billion Baby clothing. They also carry a bunch of women's clothing with handbags, rolling trays, hats, and shoulder bags. Now, if you can't stop in and see David at Just Imagine, go to justimagine651.com and you can check out all their fly gear there. When you go to checkout, enter in BRBD to receive 10% off of your order. So again, please patronize. If you didn't catch last week's episode, go back and watch it. Red is a real smart young man, isn't he? He's went through a lot of adversity.
I like the Red. He was smart.
He's a smart man.
Yeah.
And so please, again, visit justimagine651.com and
Red, thank you for being a sponsor. I'm sorry. I'm looking over here like you said. Thank you for being a sponsor.
Now, after you get geared up, what you going to do?
Well, if you kind of want, a little sweet tea or something.
Something like that?
We're not going to plug whose it is, but if you want if you want a little sweet tea or eggs or
money orders,
bread, mail, service, you want to go down to the WeberMart.
To the what?
WeberMart.
And where's that at?
WeberMart is, over North Minneapolis. It's on 1701 44th Avenue North.
There you go.
Yeah, the WeberMart.
WeberMart.
You should check that guy out, Kevin. He's a nice guy, and he's convenient.
Where's this southern weird backwoods accent coming from, Doc?
That's my white guy. Southern accent.
Oh, that's your white southern guy.
What gives you the right?
Go to the WeberMart.
Yeah, go to the WeberMart, damn it.
After that, please make sure to check out our link tree. Go to linktr.ee/BRBD. You can get connected with all of our socials, connected to our Patreon account. I've been plugging this hat. We're up right now to 10 subscribers, and the first 25, you're going to be able to get a customizable Black Republican, Black Democrat hat. We got a bunch of different styles, colors. Again, head to linktree/BRBD, subscribe, watch our socials, and support the show. If you haven't done so already, please like this live stream, share it to your friends, share it to your family, and at the end of the day, if you like what we do, the only way to grow and get us into the ears and eyes of more people is you got to like and share it.
Yeah, like and share. And then become a supporter and, go to the patreon.com/BRBD, patreon.com/BRBD, and become a contributor. I had to jump on one of my friends today and tell them, you have a contributor. And this guy's got money.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm like, excuse me?
Right.
He's like, well, it wasn't working. Yeah, I'm talking about you. He's talking about, well, it wasn't working. I said, no, it's working. You weren't working your little fat fingers to give us some money.
But for real, we
appreciate everybody.
This show, it works 100% off of our sponsors and off of folks like you. The more sponsors we get, the more contributors that we get, the higher quality show we can put on, bring guests from out of state, things like that. So that's our plugs. So what did you think today about the deliberations day 2?
Well, Rittenhouse is
Rittenhouse. We'll get it eventually.
Somebody. As I told you, he's going to get acquitted. Especially this judge, to me, just reminds me of one of the good old boys, 1943, 1963. Just one of those type of judges that.
Well, then why didn't you throw out the case already?
Oh, please.
There's been 2 motions for. There's been 2
and
motions
there's
for
one
mistrial
today.
with prejudice.
Yeah, because he knows. I mean, where's the mistrial at? I mean, how you going to declare? Oh,
I'm saying if he's a good old boy, he would have done a mistrial.
He's a good old boy.
I think he's been pretty down the line, man.
Hell no. And I think the prosecutor did a great job in the summation of the case than he did putting on the case, which is kind of unfortunate. I don't think he did a good job of putting on the case. I think the judge throwing out the fact, throwing out the charge of this minor possessing this weapon, that to me is ludicrous because that is the whole case. I mean, it is illegal for this guy to possess a weapon in this state. And so to me, here's what I want the jury to be thinking about, or jury, here's what I'm thinking about. That's what I'm saying. His summation was good. These people aren't dead if he's not there illegally possessing this weapon. And even if he's there possessing this weapon illegally, we've seen it done. I've seen it done too many times last year where community members that were legal gun holders protect the business. In fact, our sponsor, Kevin, he did the same thing. I think he had an AR-15 or something. What is it?
Yeah, AR-15.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think he had one of those sitting in front of his store. He didn't walk down the street with his gun strapped to him and all that. That's sort of looking for trouble, even if you. And honestly, Reverend McAfee was very specific last year with the guys that protected Solo. I don't know if you know the store of North Minneapolis. He was very specific about them that you don't go around the block protecting the block. We are protecting the store. So if Rittenhouse was somebody was protecting the business that he was there for, fine. But then you stay in front of that business. You protect that business. So to me, it was people who seen this shooter at large and they tried to protect themselves and other people that they from a vigilante that they seen going. Well, it wasn't a vigilante; it's a terrorist that was going around this community shooting people.
So you definitely are someone that watches mainstream media, but you haven't. If you watch the trial a lot, which I've been able to watch a lot of the trial live back, either live or watch it back, you have so many facts wrong. So number one, the law is very, very straightforward. In Wisconsin, it says that you cannot have a gun if you are under the age of 18 unless you are 16 or 17 in possession of a long rifle in which the barrel is longer than 16 inches, which Kyle was. Kyle explained that he did not get a handgun because he knew that that was illegal for him to carry. And the reason the law is written that way is very specific. It's easier,
so those kids can go hunting, not hunting for people to kill.
That doesn't matter. The point is that you can carry a long rifle if you're 16 and 17, and the judge was right to throw that out. The other thing,
no, he wasn't.
Yes, he was.
No,
and the other thing that makes no sense to what you just said. The Car Source, which is the business that he was patrolling, they have 3 locations.
And he wasn't supposed to go. You watched the trial. He wasn't supposed to go to all of them.
He had a fire extinguisher.
It was at Car Source 2.
He also had a fire extinguisher in which he had put out a dumpster fire, right? The group that he was with, he had shown in the videos prior to that he tried to de-escalate the situation. He wasn't just running around with his finger on the trigger getting ready to shoot someone. It wasn't until Rosenbaum approached him, running after him, in which there was that couple. One of them fired a gun, and as he turned around, as the ME testified,
stop that.
He had burn marks on his finger because he was grabbing the barrel of the gun when Rittenhouse shot him. So I think that the only reason the jury hasn't came back, this is my personal opinion,
is because all them white folks is going to acquit Rittenhouse.
It's because they're afraid. I think there's people that are holding out. They're afraid. I can't believe that they did not sequester this jury. I can't believe that they also, the judge, someone took photos and then they said, "Oh, I deleted the photos of the jury."
What do you mean?
Someone took photos of the jurors going in, and then it was brought up to the attention of the court. The judge said, "Well, we made sure it was deleted." Once you take a photo, you make sure it's deleted. You could have sent the email real quick. So I think that there's jurors that are afraid. I personally, like I said at the beginning after the evidence got laid out, I hope that he gets acquitted. It might look like right now, though, that it's going to be a mistrial or a hung jury, and they'll have to try it again. But the stuff that came out today with the motion, it was pretty crazy because this prosecution doesn't care about the Constitution. The prosecutor, this Binger, he's, I think, a terrible prosecutor. He pointed the gun, he pointed the AR-15 rifle at the jury, put his finger on the trigger. That's just bad practice all around.
No, it's actually good dramatics to show to
point a actual gun that can...
because it was loaded. What is he, Alex Baldwin?
Exactly.
What the hell?
That's why you never point a gun at someone unless
Rittenhouse pointed a gun at 3 people and killed 2 of them.
In defense, absolutely.
He was not. He should have had his narrow ass at that business and should not have left that business. AK, that is the bottom line.
Personally, I don't think he should have gone there.
He should not have gone there. These people would be alive.
His dad, they would also be alive if they didn't chase him.
Oh, please.
He would also be alive if they weren't
because they seen this dude.
They weren't out there burning things and doing riots.
Stop.
We know that if you go down that path, that's where you're going to always end up at.
How many rioters got killed here last year?
How many rioters got? I don't know.
None. 0.
Okay.
So
but there was bodies found in a burned building. That happened. So non-rioters got killed last year here.
You know why? Because they were drug addicts.
You don't know that?
Yeah, they were drug addicts. I got married to the street. Those guys were drug addicts.
So they should die because they're drug addicts?
No. Again, I'm saying they were no. I'm saying that they weren't rioters. They weren't looters or rioters. They were drug addicts.
Ended up killing them.
Oh, why? Because they got
they were whatever.
They got merchandise and sold it all.
With what you're saying, that they were passed out, whatever, knotted out from opiates or heroin or whatever,
which they were,
and then they got burned up. But if the fire would have never been started, they would have never died.
True enough. It's so that's what the thing about politics, right? Yeah. Is we've had different people in here and we've talked about it. And so tonight's guest is no different. We have a gubernatorial candidate, Republican gubernatorial candidate, and I want to know what he would do too, because we've had people in here that critique Governor Walz and Mayor Fryer on what they did. So let's figure out and find out what tonight's guest, Dr. Neil Shah, would do. Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show. For having me. Appreciate it, guys. There we go.
Thanks for coming. This trial stems from the pain and anguish and sometimes roguishness. See, I'm old school. We say roguish. From last year, from the murder of George Floyd. And so again, here we didn't have any murders take place from any underage vigilantes. It just didn't happen. But we had, the city and cities were almost burnt down and businesses were decimated, right? Mm-hmm. As I didn't see video of you critiquing Governor Walz, but Governor Shah What do? You get that call that you see Lake Street burning. What's that? The fourth precinct? Was it? Yeah, fourth precinct. Third.
Yeah.
It's on fire. And the mayor of Minneapolis has told those guys to retreat, which I think was rightfully so. I mean, that's brick and mortar. It can be put back up. Those lives can't be. What do you do?
Yeah, I think his response was, look, your job in that scenario is to ensure people have their constitutionally protected right to redress the government for grievances and assemble. You have to be able to protest. But burning down businesses and threatening people's lives and livelihoods and neighborhoods crosses that line. And so that's the job of the executive, that's the job of the police to make sure that that line is not crossed. And there's times it can be tough to do, but you can't be afraid to act. And to me, it's a fairly bright line where, look, you can get mad, you can yell, you can chant, but this guy's business, he did nothing to deserve getting burned down. You can be mad at cops, but most of the cops in that third precinct trying to do a good job every day, keep people safe. You don't burn their precinct down. And you certainly don't burn down the neighborhoods around there and then the looting and everything that went on. So, Jacob Fry requested assistance. He said, look, we're overwhelmed here. And Walz didn't act. He just sat on it. So there's a request sitting on his desk, and he didn't act. And finally, he acts, but all the damage had been done by that point. You can't be that indecisive about it. So,
well, okay. How was he indecisive?
Well, he ultimately did act. He should have acted quicker. Monday night, when the riots started blowing up, he has the 34th ID has a quick reaction force that would have been a sufficient number to get in there and at least stem that rioting. The third precinct never should have been ordered abandoned. It was ordered abandoned. The cops who left there were told, pack up what you need. They told the businesses around there. So I used to live in that neighborhood. I used to live on East Lake Street, and a lot of those businesses, my wife and I would, they were our restaurant or our bar. My barbershop is right across. So the third precinct, then there's Minnehaha Liquors, which totally burned down. There's a couple other places on the other side of that is LV's barbershop. That's my barbershop.
First of all, that he used to work at my barbershop, which is up the street, Jay Clip, so I know who he is. Great barber.
Yeah, he is.
Small world.
Yeah.
That is small world.
Yeah, I know LV.
Yeah. So, that LV's didn't end up
So his
down.
business burned down?
It didn't.
No.
The only reason it didn't burn down is because my friend and barber Derek stood outside with a gun and protected it. And him and his buddy did that.
Which I think is quite noble. And again,
that's why we have the Second Amendment, right?
Absolutely.
When the government fails you,
but
defend your business.
does that mean, is that indecisiveness when it's a fluid situation? So I think you don't want to. I mean, he'd already had complaints of them shooting rubber bullets and harming people, right? So. How is he indecisive in letting them handle the responsibilities and the riot the way that they're supposed to? But then when it got heated to the point where it literally got heated, where they started trying to burn down the building around them, the executive of that city says, leave the building. I'd rather have you alive than a building that we can rebuild, which they already had plans for. It's all pretty and white and looks like it's from Beverly Hills and things that you haven't seen the sketches. You got to see. I mean, so I don't understand the indecisiveness.
Yeah, so the indecisiveness on Walz's part was that he had a request. And in this situation, he'd make the argument that, look, the governor's one step or a couple steps removed. The mayor of the city is saying, we can't hold this. We don't have the force to do this in a responsible manner or safe manner. We need help. So the request was already made, and then Walz just sat on it. You can't do that. You're being asked for help, and you just say, I don't want to do a hard thing. Being an executive is not easy. It's taking imperfect data and doing the best you can to try to act, but you can't waffle. And you're going to get judged either way no matter how you do this thing. But in that moment, that's what separates the great leaders from the mediocre or the bad leaders, is that willingness to say decisively, I will do this for well-defined reasons, and here's the viewpoint that I'm articulating, and here's the central principles that are animating my decision. And right or wrong, I'm going to do the best I can for the people in this situation. He was afraid to act because he was afraid of any consequences that could blow back on his political career. Politics isn't a career, and that's the issue. You have these career politicians who get in there. They're not going to do the right thing. They'll do the expedient thing. They'll do the easy thing. They're not going to take a chance. They're not going to stand for something. If you get in there and you do a good job, you get rewarded or punished, I would argue, by being left in that job to do it some bit longer. And then you finally leave and go back to your day job. But you've got these guys on both sides of the aisle that don't want to take a chance, that don't want to stand for anything. And so we get the country in some ways that we deserve because we select the people that we send out there.
You know, I wanted to kind of jump on a couple of things that you said. I've never had the honor or privilege of meeting you. I'm fancying myself a Politico. I've heard of you. And just a quick little story, shout out, and then I'm going to ask you a question. So my neighbor, Erin, she just ended up moving. She's no longer in Minnesota, but she was a big fan of you. And I think someone from the campaign, you know, calling around, talking to supporters, and she said, my neighbor has this podcast called Black Republican, Black Democrat, and literally she texted me and said, I just talked to someone from Shah's campaign, and I said that you should maybe be on the show, and I got contacted by your campaign. So one, welcome to the show. Glad to have you on.
Appreciate it.
A couple of things that you said that I want to ask you about that I think kind of set you aside. You didn't have I guess a traditional political route, right? So, you know, the question I want to ask is, one, what do you do for a living? I know that you're a doctor, but what called you into wanting to run for governor?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll rewind just a bit to give some background for your viewers if they haven't been following the campaign. So I was born and raised in a suburb of Chicago to Indian immigrant parents who came here about 50 years ago. And they came here completely poor. They didn't know each other before they got here. So my dad, at that time, they're both pretty big families, 5 kids each, and you would spend your entire life savings at that time, 1969, to send your kid over here in search of the American dream. And so you get here, you're in Chicago, it's cold, you have no friends. You're like, what have I done? And your job, because your dad just spent his entire life savings putting you here, is to bring the rest of your family over. Okay. And so he had an academic scholarship, and the terms of a scholarship where he had to maintain a 4.0, but he had enough of a work permit in his visa to work to pay the tuitions. He had to work 30 hours a week or so to make tuition, and then he had to maintain a 4.0. So it's that classic, you know, rags to riches story. My mom was the same thing, except her brother was here, so she at least had someone a vanguard in front of her. They met here, and they built a successful tax and accounting business, and I was born in a suburb of Chicago. And my brothers were there, and we did great. So I came to Minnesota in 2003 to go to medical school at the U, trained at Mayo after that. I'm a dermatologist by trade. Started my practice about 9 years ago, so I'm a small business owner as well.
Okay.
And all the joys and tribulations that come with doing that. So
you're an executive.
That's right. That's right. So, and my wife's from White Bear Lake. We met my last year of medical school. We have 3 little kids, 8, 6, and 5 years old. And I never thought, I mean, not even at the beginning of this year, not even in March or April, that I would be here doing this, trying to help the state. And it's because, in my mind, 2020 was so traumatic in many ways. It was the failure of the state, of every apparatus in the state, the failure of the state to keep us safe, the failure of the state to allow for freedom, the failure of the state to respond to the inevitable pandemics and earthquakes and bad things that come up. We lost our freedoms, our liberties, had our businesses endangered.
What country did you live in when this all happened? Where the hell was I?
Minneapolis, man.
Oh, okay.
So I looked around and I said, look, I don't think we have 4 more years of walls. I don't think Minnesota can afford that. And then I looked at the people running on my side of the aisle and said, it's going to be more career politicians. We need to run somebody different. We need to run a different game plan, and I think we can get a different result.
You're going to be in trouble saying that. Now, for real, when those established Republicans hear you say that, that could ostracize you when they get called the old guard. They don't like that, especially when some youngster does it.
You got to shake it up, though. Keep them on the toes.
Well, that's what you should. No doubt about it. I think they should. But here's the other thing. Right into it, the same thing I ask every single Republican is, there's not a Republican or Democrat, for that matter, Walsh either, so Walsh has a lot of work to do. There's not a Republican or Democrat that's going to win the governorship without the black vote, period. You guys have the worst relationship with our community. Walsh is just in trouble because of the things he's been doing, but he's a Democrat, so that could be smoothed over, right? Please don't take into consideration these polls that you hear and how bad Democrats look and doing. I'm like, stop that, okay? Now that we're gonna build back better, that's that. Okay, anyway, you guys are in trouble. I mean, I know you have David Hahn. I always put somebody effing Hahn hand guy. I mean, he's not going to do anything for your party. He's not going to build a real big tent. I hate when you guys use that word because you're not a big tent. So you guys are in trouble. You have a deficit of black support. Mm-hmm. How does Neil go about gaining black support?
Why does the black community overwhelmingly support Democrats when Democratic policies have been deleterious to the black community over the last 50 years?
Well, I think that because here's the thing. I think a lot of policies have helped our community and that there are some that don't. But when the people that always proclaim that these policies are bad don't bring their policies or their butts around or their ideals around when they're not in power, you don't foster relationships with Democratic voters. So why should we give you a chance when we don't know you? All we see is you in September, October of that election cycle.
Yeah, that's a very fair criticism. Yeah, I heard so the one Republican who's gotten more black votes than anyone in the history of America, at least for a statewide race, is Mike Huckabee. So former governor down
Really?
Arkansas. Yeah.
I couldn't stand him.
He had almost 50%.
Because he had
I thought it was Bush.
He almost had 50% of the black vote, 50%. No one's come even close. And the reason for that, when you hear him tell this story, he said, the first time I engaged, went to a black church. He's a very religious man.
That is, yeah.
On the weekend. They told me to leave. And so I went back the next weekend. And I kept going back. And I brought my family. And eventually they let me stay. And eventually I started talking to people. And eventually I got to speak. And he did that over years. You have to build trust. And you have to get people to see that there's far more that unites us than divides us. And you're right. You can't show up and kiss some babies a couple months before the election and expect an entire community to change the way that they view you. Now, we would argue as conservatives that, we point to some historical elements. The first blacks in Congress were Republicans after the Civil War, and that the rates of black ownership in the post-Jim Crow era South were skyrocketing. The rates of single black dads were going down. In many areas, you had this crossover where blacks were starting to do better than whites. And then the Great Society.
And then white folks would always burn that shit down.
Well, there definitely was that.
Yeah.
But then there was the Great Society programs, and I think that was it. That was the precipitous decline. If you destroy the family, you destroy the community. And anything that pulls the father out, I think you need a father and a mother.
Absolutely. And
once you create that, and then you have enough fatherless households in a neighborhood, it's the number of two-parent households in the neighborhood.
Let me stop you there, because I want to inform you as a Republican, that's a huge myth. If you're asserting that black men aren't or weren't in the household, that's just a big myth. That's, again, what government strews over.
What do you mean it's a myth, though?
Let me finish. When black women or brown women were on welfare, were in any type of welfare programs, they couldn't have the husbands in the household. So a lot of men did what my grandmother and my grandfather would do, is you would always have a meeting where they just wouldn't pop up. So when the social worker would come out, they would remove the clothes, and the man, he would be gone. So that's a statistical stat that this is a single family home, and that's how the government would count it. But a lot of men were still in the household. They just couldn't be there because of government. And i.e. myself, when I was with the mother of my first children, we did the same thing. She would receive more money if I wasn't on the grant. So even though we lived together, I wasn't on the grant.
But that policy was written in that way for a very specific purpose. It could have been written
to keep black men out of their homes.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
Well, that's what Republicans and Democrats did back then.
That's a Democrat policy from a Democrat president.
But it could be a policy, but it's also in the implementation. So we can blame Democrats for that, but then I'll look and say, okay, look at a Texas governor and the way they implemented it. So we can, but back to what's real now, because you're kind of being like Lionel Richie, you're kind of dancing over it. How do you foster relationships with black folks enough to win. Because your other opponents, I mean, they've kind of got an advantage. They've been in Congress or they've been in the Senate. They've been there for a while. And they do know a few black people, just a few. So maybe one or two of them. They don't know many. But how do you go about that? Because we just said off air, I'm 43, 41. So you're fairly young. Mm-hmm. You could tap into younger black and brown men. How do you really? First of all, for fee, when we're off the air, I could tell you how. But how do you tap into younger black and brown men or people?
That's a great question, and you're going to need champions to get you in front of it. You're going to need folks to look at you, maybe like you, and say, "Hey, I've talked to a lot of Republicans over the years. I've talked to a lot of politicians over the years. Oh, he's a little bit different. So open the door. Just let me walk in and then talk." You don't need to agree with everybody and everything. That's something I've learned that's been very important the last 10, 12 years, get my hair cut in a barbershop where not everyone looks like me and not everyone agrees with me. You don't need that. You just need to see each other as honest men trying to make their way through the world and figure things out together. Look, like I said, we all want very similar things. We want a place for our kids to go to school that works. We want a good job for them when they're done. We want safe streets. We want the ability to worship. We want the ability to have a stable community. And I think if we lead with that and then we go the other way to try to deduce policy from the same things that we all want, what we should find, and what I'd like to see more of, is the fact that you end up getting policy disagreements between the left and the right, but ultimately we're trying to go to the same thing. And that's what I get most dismayed with nowadays with the career political class, is that we're not trying to the argument used to be America's great, how do you make it better? And now you've got a significant fraction of folks saying, I don't like America, burn it all down. And that I don't think is productive or helpful. I'd like to get back to the original thing where we differed on policy, but we agreed on all the big stuff.
So one of the things that Jamar and I completely disagree on, Thomas Sowell is someone that I view as probably one of the greatest political thought leaders that's unknown.
I think he's one of the greatest Americans of all time.
Absolutely. And Thomas Sowell has done so much extensive study over his last 50 years, writing about not just the white stats, but looking overall, and you are completely on point in regards to, as you look from, let's say, a 1930s, 40s, and 50s Black America to today, and you look at the rates of men that are not in the home, that is not untrue. Are there some men, I know people that live in Section 8 housing or live in low-income subsidized housing that have the baby daddy that is around but not around, but that is not the same type of structure that you get from having both parents in the household, but it is because of the policies. There are policies that specifically say that if you have a husband and wife in the same household, that it will significantly change what the benefits look like for that household. So they absolutely, I think, had the aspect that it is replacing men, and I think that also has a psychological impact on men. And I think that's something that we can talk about. I think also that pointing fingers, and I'm not saying you did this, but I think that pointing fingers and saying, or the Democrat, they're the ones that made this happen. It is that aspect is true. I would rather say this is an opportunity for you to give us a chance of here's what we want to do, and you already kind of talked about those points. So, one of the things that I've heard you mention, liberty, heard you mention freedom a few times. I want to kind of understand your perspective of what you view as the role of a governor. So, there's all these great ideas of things that, policy positions and things like that you might have, but what would you want to do? What would a Governor Shah administration, what are some top things that you would want to focus on specifically, and maybe give me one or two things that are really passionate for you that you would want to accomplish in your administration?
Yeah, I mean, philosophically, the executive should be kind of a small little vestigial part of government. It should be the legislature is the most important because that's the voice of the people. And then the judiciary is there as a check, and the executive's there kind of to execute things in a reasonable fashion. Too much power has been taken by the executive. Walz should never have been able to abuse the emergency powers the way he did. And no meaningful emergency powers reform was passed. So he could do it, or someone after him, or even a Republican could go off the rails and take people's freedom and liberty away. That can never be allowed to happen. That's why I signed the Never Again Pledge, and I think that's one of the most important pieces of legislation we need. It's a no-brainer. My first week in office, I want to sign that, or as soon as they can get it to me, to take away my own powers and give them back to the people where they belong. But also ensure that emergency powers are never used to abuse the people again, even by the legislature. You know, there should be a miniature Bill of Rights within it saying they have to be able to protect themselves. They have to be able to protest and redress the government for grievances. They have to have free speech. Freedom and liberty, the founding ideals of this country, and they are by far the most important. So whether it's your health freedom, your freedom to choose to get vaccinated or not, your freedom to have your business open. There's no guarantee anyone's going to go there, but the government should be able to close it. We have to get back to freedom and liberty. And so philosophically, that's where I put the executive as someone small, and the legislature should have the power. But the executive can cheerlead. And I don't think that the bully pulpit should be underemphasized. You can say, here are the problems we face. Here's how we're going to pull together. Here's what I think the solution is. Here's the solutions I'm going to champion. Here's the issues I'm going to champion, whether it's, you know, protecting your God-given rights to free speech or defend yourself or the unborn. All of these things, I can champion those. And so you can help guide where the legislature wants to go, and you can say, I'm going to veto this. This thing's crazy, or I'm going to support this. And that's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see some vision and leadership and putting our state on a path to increase prosperity and always preserving freedom and liberty.
To you, in your opinion, was what happened to George Floyd, was that murder?
Well, it was a murder because the jury of his peers decided it was. It is not a simple answer. That's why I'm trying to give you. It was a bad cop that should not have been left on the service, acting in a way that led to the death of George Floyd, and that should never have happened. And it accentuates a need for meaningful police reform, which is something that I don't think gets talked about enough.
Oh, you said the R word. You're a Republican. You can't say that.
No, I can say whatever the hell I want.
You can't say reform. No, you sound like a Democrat. Yeah. So, is there a policing issue? I mean, I asked a Republican this is maybe ludicrous, but to you, well, you know,
yeah.
To you, is there a policing issue? Because to me, I would say yes. That's why we need the reform. That's why ballot question 2, which was it now? 2. Goodness. I was so scared that it would pass because a lot of folks were sick and tired of being sick and tired of the bad encounters with the police. So is there a policing issue or is it bad cops, bad community? What does Governor Shah think? How do we?
I don't think it's any one of those things. It's all of the above. Look, the majority of people are good. Cops are a subset of people. The majority of doctors are good. There's bad ones, and there are bad nurses, bad cops. Okay.
Are you a bad doctor?
I hope not. So you have to have mechanisms that allow you to get rid of the bad ones. And if law enforcement professionals are honest, there was a blue wall of silence about some of these things.
Absolutely.
And that got us into the situation we're in, where you've had communities lose faith in the good cops, who are the overwhelming majority of it. And we have to look at the fact that union contracts allowed a lot of that to happen.
Absolutely.
Okay? And those same types of public sector union contracts allow bad teachers to persist in schools, bad cops to persist on the force, and they ruin it for everybody else that's trying to do it right. So when we talk about reform, we have to get back to what the root cause was. It was someone who shouldn't have been in that situation, probably should no longer have been on the force, as best I can tell from his record. And I don't know if he had adequate training. I don't think the amount of combatives training is adequate in general in terms of responsibly restraining people, feeling comfortable. How can you draw your taser and shoot Dante Wright?
Wait a minute.
Oh, it wasn't your taser. It was your pistol.
Wait a minute.
That's a training problem.
You're a Republican gubernatorial candidate saying that, okay, I'm just trying to get a grasp on what you're saying.
Saying the truth. There's a reason the taser's on the cross. It's a cross draw, and you have your pistol out. You should never ever do that. That's a never ever. And so when you get those things, it should be completely ingrained in muscle memory. Which side your pistol's on, which side your taser's on.
That's why I think that her defense is bull. She knew she had her gun to me, and so well,
we'll never know what she thought at that second.
True.
But clearly, the outcome was terrible, and those kinds of failures are training failures.
Taser, no. But to hear a gubernatorial candidate say that, especially Republican, Democrats would say it. But to hear, you're kind of setting yourself out there. That's a bold statement. Because have you heard any other Republican candidates say that? They wouldn't.
No, but it's something that's talked about.
I congratulate you.
Well,
I might stump for you for a small fee. No, I like what I'm saying is that's refreshing.
We have to be even-handed about these things. Okay, look, being a cop is a hard job. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So do a ride. For people who are like, oh, I don't know how these guys could ever be a little rough or whatever. Do a ride along. See what their job is like. Understand how hard it would be to strap on a badge and a gun and go into a neighborhood where the people don't want you there. Everyone's going to videotape you. All you're trying to do is keep people safe, okay? And so the ridiculous notions of things like ending qualified immunity, no cop is going to get out of their car. There's not some degree of protection. And you're already seeing some of this selective policing, which I think is very dangerous.
So would you end qualified immunity?
No, you need it.
I'm telling you, son.
Trying to figure down. I have a couple of little points that I want to bring up too. So when you're discussing kind of certain aspects that you would change if you were governor, you talked about the Never Again pledge.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
I think that's, and I've kind of seen it out there. Now I've heard some pushback from some other candidates that they believe that there's unconstitutional aspects to that. For you, what's the importance of why that would be, a day one type of deal for you?
Well, it's a day one type deal because the most damaging thing that I think happened in Minnesota was the emergency powers being just extended with no pushback.
I think you guys were jealous of that, honestly. I think you guys were just jealous of this guy's emergency powers. Y'all talk about it too late.
Jealous.
Too much.
Yeah, I know. Businesses going out of existence, and kids getting pulled out of school, and masks.
Well, people were dying. So that's what I'm saying.
Virus.
I interrupt you because I hear when Republicans say that people were dying.
Okay.
So it's easy for you sitting in this black chair. You're not sitting in the big chair out there in St. Paul. If you had people dropping on you. And the businesses were failing because people wasn't fraternizing them. So I think that's so disingenuous for you guys to say, well, that's what caused. Well, people weren't going to these businesses.
Would they be going if there wasn't an order, though? I think they would be.
No. Let's remember. No, right. They had started slowing down going into these businesses anyway. Yes, they. Bruh.
Was there going to be a possible little bit of a slowdown? Sure.
There was going to be a lot of bit of a slowdown.
No, there wasn't.
I can tell you that if, as a business owner, look, if no one comes to my business because some bad thing happens, I can accept that as the cost of doing business, the risk of doing business. If I go to business because no one wants to eat a hamburger and have a beer because there's a pandemic, so be it. But when the government forces me to close, doesn't give me a chance to try to prove to my patrons that I can do this safely. I can put HEPA filters in. We'll give N95s to our staff. You can come in and have your burger in a little bubble outside. Whatever it is, allow me to adapt.
You got to pay for that. Y'all hate paying for everything. Where's all these businesses going to get these monies to get these expensive items like schools did? Where do schools get the money from? The feds gave it to them. So then you guys were complaining about that.
No,
so Governor Shah, you going to give these businesses this money?
No, businesses can take loans. They got to figure it out. There has to be risk there.
You forgive these loans then if these businesses that are a mom and pop business? That's what I'm saying. You guys say that, we're living in Never land with what you guys say. If mom and pop business, I don't have enough money to take another loan out.
But you take that option away. Like what I'm hearing you say, and what I completely disagree with, and Shah, you can chime in with what you believe, but when you step in and say you can't do this, you are now taking that choice away from the business owner. And that's been my problem. It's not about if I see people dying. Like, if you believe that you should be able to control what other people do because you think you have a good idea, to me, that is the step towards tyranny and authoritarianism.
Right.
Even if you're justified, even if you're well-meaning, even if you're well-intentioned, when you take away that freedom. So when you ask all these questions, how do you do this? How do you do that? I would say we let people make choices.
And when those businesses fail, they blame government. Go ahead, Doc.
Well, who cares if they blame government?
Back to your initial question about how it's easy to do this in 2020 hindsight. Okay, if every governor acted in the same way, maybe, but they didn't. And so maybe for the first month, right, someone starts shooting at you, you take a knee, you figure out what's going on. Okay, this is really bad. We don't know what this is. But by about May, we kind of had a pretty good idea of what it was. We had a good idea of who was dying, right? You had to protect the olds. We did a terrible job there. We Cuomo'd our olds. We had one of the highest death rates.
Yes,
we
did.
had one of the
We put them in
highest
nursing
death
homes.
rates
We
in
did not.
the country.
We did. Still did
not.
And then we failed to have any type of trying to keep kids in school, trying to keep businesses open, trying to find a middle way. So it was all in one direction. At the end of the day, we ended up not so great for death rates.
So you don't close anything. Governor Shah doesn't close anything while the people in your state they're steady dying, even the olds. Governor Shah is going to keep open everything. Trust businesses to keep. So when these businesses start having
you
these,
don't let the man answer.
When I get done with my question, when these businesses start having these big outbreaks and more people die, it's on your hands. What do you do, Governor?
We did this experiment.
What experiment?
Federalism. We had states who stayed open. They did fine.
Republican
They
states
did
that stayed
better
open, and
on
they had
average.
high death rates. Come on, Dr. Shaw.
Where did they end up at the end of the pandemic? Florida has one of the lowest death rates now, and they ended up right in the middle of the pack. And they didn't
Texas,
pay-
Tennessee.
number one, New York, New Jersey.
Well, we know what
Come on.
Cuomo's a snake.
Oh.
What do you mean?
It's a fully Democrat-controlled state.
I don't care
It's
if he's
number
a
one on
Democrat.
the
He's a
list.
snake.
New Jersey,
But what the
California.
problem is, you guys play politics, though. If you're really so in your mind, I've heard no Republicans, especially Republican governors. I wouldn't close down my state. Then what do you do about the people that's dying in your state? You let it stay open and you let the people continue to die. The mandate, because you guys hate that. You don't want to be told what to do.
You realize the limits of your power. You're not God. You're not an emperor. You can give people information and say, look, this thing's real bad. Here's some things that can probably protect you. Here's some suggestions we have on what to do. You got to do the best you can.
Is your staff? How big is your staff?
So we've got campaign manager, scheduler, and then general consultant, senior consultant, and then a lot of volunteers.
Anybody on your staff black?
Other than you?
Black like me.
Oh, black African.
Black American.
No.
Okay, no. Again, you kind of didn't answer it. How if I'm black, you come North Minneapolis, South Minneapolis, you and your team you bring with you, you've got nobody that looks like me, native or any other color. Then how do I trust you?
I don't know, but you're very into voting for a white governor, and you have a white mayor.
First of all, that's the people that ran, and I think you guys see that this is what I mean. I'm a black man that happens to be Democrat, not a Democrat that happens to be black, and I think that we have sometimes a lot of folks get that misconstrued. Period. They don't choose party over anything else, right? I think what you guys fail to realize is, again, it's not a joke, is you can't win races without black folks. And I would have never supported Biden and Amy Klobuchar. I was not going to vote for an all-white ticket because that's not America. That's not what my community looks like. That's not what America looks like. So again, if you come around to my community and you don't have a staff, and one of your staff members doesn't look like anybody that's in that crowd of people, folks aren't voting for you. And listen, I tell even black candidates that you can't go around with an all-white staff. That shit doesn't fly anymore.
Yeah.
Because that tells people about the individual, the candidate.
Yeah, I think it tells me that you live in a racial world, and I'd like to live in a post-racial world.
I think you're not living in reality. And if you think, again, that you can go around to black and brown communities and not have anybody that looks like them on your staff, I think you're gonna tap into the Al Franken syndrome. You're gonna get your ass booed, and they're not gonna invite you back. Dr. Shaw, Republicans have a black deficit. You guys have a Huge. If you're listening to the tea leaves and the polls that tell you that right now Biden's numbers are low and Republicans' numbers are high, remember they're only sampling 600 to 1,000 people, and they're hardly knocking on black folks' doors. If you think that black folks in an instant will not turn around and turn those poll numbers around because we don't know you guys, then you're sadly mistaken. You're a very bright guy, and you're saying the most bold things I've heard any Republican candidate say. So what I'm telling you is to brush up a little bit because no Republican candidate has any black staff members. You're all fooling yourselves if you think that you're going to win without folks that look like me or even you on your staff. I'm just saying. So
I got something that I want to say. With me specifically, I'm a conservative, so I look at the individual.
You are?
I look at the individual, and because I'm an individualistic person, okay, me and Jamar completely disagree on this aspect as well. I personally, if I was running for governor, I would not care if there was a single other black person on my campaign unless it just happened to be that I hired someone that happened to be black. That is personally how I am. I don't pick my friends. I didn't pick my wife because of her color. I picked a woman that I fell in love with. My friends are my friends. I have friends of every race, nationality, ethnicity, whatever, right? That's what it is for me. And so I think that for you, being conservative, and it sounds like you're very liberty-minded, the question I want to ask you is, being that you are of Indian descent, and growing up in Chicago, get your hair cut down on Lake Street, have you found any kind of like weird interactions that people can obviously tell you're not white, right? But how was that been for you? Because I mean, you're viewed.
Let's say in your own party.
You're viewed as a black or brown person. That's probably how you're viewed and how you're treated, right? You don't look like you're white. You're not like so light that you're. So I'm just curious, how has that experience been for you?
I mean, if the question's whether I've met racists, then yeah, of course.
What about in your party though? How do you get treated in your party?
Well, I always said if you want to feel the most love possible, be a black guy wearing a MAGA hat at a Trump rally. And you would think that that's the straightest.
I mean, you usually get beat up, but okay.
No, you would get loved and adored.
You would get loved and adored.
So
look at my little black guy right there.
Well, I think that is...
You talking about Trump's speech?
Yeah, look at my little black guy over there.
My black... What do you say? My blacks... Where's my blacks? And he's like...
It was just so embarrassing.
But honestly, when it comes to the perception of how you're treated, because when I hear Jamar ask you this question about do you gonna have white staff, it's like, you're the candidate, man. Like if you're out and you're talking to people, they see that you're not white. But I'm just wondering, have you been treated different by the black community or by
anybody?
Well, he ain't been to the black community yet.
Well, I mean, that's not true. He lives in South Minneapolis off Lake Street. That's the black community. He said he used to live there.
I mean, I could live downtown and not be
Lake
friends.
Street's downtown?
Well, no, I'm just saying. What I'm saying is,
got the same barber for a minute?
No, he worked in my barber shop.
Oh, okay. But I am curious though. Like, have you had any of that?
Specifically though, AK, where with community or party? What?
Just
I think
no. Within the black community.
I haven't.
No, that's an eclectic area. If they rob you, they don't give a shit what color you are. They rob you because they're on drugs.
No. I'm just saying, as you've interacted, have you ever?
I would say no. I don't mean to speak for you, but that area I love. I've been over there for 12 years getting my hair cut, and it's
no. You run into random people who are gonna not like you for whatever reason, right? It's they don't like your shoes, they don't like your shirt, they don't like the way you talk, whatever. It's something about you. There's people out there that still want to divide based on race, and there's people who I think you and I are probably identical on this, that look at everyone as an individual. You know, I assume people are trying to do the best they can, and have some degree of wariness about everybody you meet until you get to know them. But I don't really care. I've got friends that it's all kinds of. How many axes of diversity you want? People that are poor, people that are wealthy, people that are immigrants, people that have been here for a long time, people that are black, people that are white. You got to judge them based on, are you nice? Are you hardworking? Like axes that actually matter. When we talk to our kids about it, we're like, look, is this person good? Like good? Are they going to be a good friend to you? Are they going to be there for you? Are they going to share their things with you? Are they going to be nice to you? Or are they going to be like mean or unnice? And
we got you back here for about 4 more minutes. Being a person of color, which I hate using that term. How many boys you got?
What'd you call?
One boy. Girl, boy, girl.
How old is he?
He's 6.
6. Will you have the talk with your boy?
At some point, yeah.
You will have the talk.
Oh, the talk about
The
what
talk.
to do with the cop. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Well, yeah. The other thing that's
Wait a minute. Say it, yes or no?
yes.
Oh, yes. Okay.
yeah.
You're in trouble. Boy, I'm telling you, you're going to be ostracized.
Well, the other talk to have is, I usually have a pistol on me, which I don't want to end up getting shot just because you have a pistol on you lawfully, right? So, and look,
I like this dude.
but you got to look at it from the other side too, right? I mean,
What other side, though?
the cop side. When they're walking up to you, you're like, look, I'm going to get my hands here.
I'm a registered gun owner, which I don't have to tell you.
I don't know. You don't have to disclose.
You don't have to disclose.
Right.
Yeah.
And he did. So
Right.
he did nothing wrong. So that asshole should not be.
You're bending it over to Philandro. Is what you're talking about?
Castillo?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
yes.
yeah. That was
So
terrible.
and honestly, I really respect you. And I love you're a refreshing Republican. I'm pretty cool with some of the other ones that are running, especially Michelle. I really like Michelle, but it's refreshing here. You can tell you're younger, honestly, right?
Yeah. I would just point out that you have assumptions about Republicans.
I do.
Just like it's one of those things where you're like, well, what is the black community like, or what is a black like? I've never met one, But what's a Republican like? It goes both ways, right? So there's these assumptions of the black community. Republicans are all a bunch of old white racists. That's not true.
I've worked with them.
It's the mirror image of the prejudice the other way. That
I've
all
worked with the
blacks
old
are
white
so
ones
bad.
and the sorry black ones. So this guy.
Sorry, but
Oh, yeah. So I've worked with them all. I will. If you pay me, I will. So that's
if you pay me.
well, yeah. That's not my deal. I just deal with reality just a little bit harder in the fact that I'm conscious of what the people that I know are saying, even that I'm not around, on social media. It is just how it is. When even Republican candidates go find black campaign managers or black comms directors, that tells you of the times, right? And it should. You can judge a person on the individual. There aren't any black qualified, smart people to you that could work on your staff. Well, there are a ton.
there are. Yeah.
So, but you gotta go look for them. Well, we won't spend any more time on that. I just think that to strategize to win, you got to incorporate how can I get some of the black vote. You may not need a lot, but you need some of it, and so you got to strategize on how to do that. And I think the Republican that does that, if they do the Mike Huckabee, the George Bush, I think that person could win. Because my guy's in trouble as a Democrat, so the Republican that bends a little bit gets any type of black vote, that person will be governor. And the thing that you think about it, we tend to like younger governors, whether they're Republican or Democrats. We like the younger folks. So you've got a leg up, but don't put it on a damn banana peel, all right?
So we've got some comments. Then after we read some comments, Tevin, our producer, we're gonna try a new segment called "Off My Chest." It's gonna give those of you that like Jamar's persuasion 2 minutes to rant, myself 2 minutes to rant. But just want to throw out a couple of comments. Michael Wilson said, "What up? Much respect, fellas."
Appreciate
What
you.
up, Michael Wilson? Also had Rachel Williams. Welcome back, Rachel. Yeah, she's OG. She's active listener. She specifically said, don't let the love or money or special interest drive your decisions, in my opinion. I agree with that 100%. I think it is important that at the end of the day, you should stand by the things that you believe in, right? You don't want to just, go whatever the special interests are. We agree. We got Jacqueline coming back, and she's saying, what about the mom and pop businesses that were spending money on those things and they still couldn't stay open because of the mandates? So specifically, you were talking about, what if you had to pay for this or do this? And like you were saying, what if they do all the things to be safe, but then they were still told, like, you can't be open.
Still can't be open, right?
Right. So that's aspect.
Well, not a lot of them did that, but go ahead.
Now, Rachel did say, Jamar, you're not mad about small businesses going under because of mandates, ? And then when was the last time as a whole that we were so focused on deaths? Come on, man. Until it's safe, it never means safe. Life is risky. You don't want to just survive, but you want to live life. Recreational baseball wouldn't be played, but travel baseball could. Our kids suffered, and so did we. It was tyranny, in my opinion. It was insane.
Well, we know what side she votes for.
Now, Jacqueline.
That's my girl, but give me a break. Come on now.
Now, Jacqueline threw out a couple of things. Asked, do you choose your team based off of talent and experience, not color, skin, gender, or anything else? If somebody's
Also
choosing
both.
a politician or any other leader based on the skin color, gender, or the other, they are not voting smart. So
That's bullshit.
She asked a couple of other kind of aspects about Do you want Republicans to hire black staff members to pander to the black community, or are you saying that you want them to consciously go and pick someone? So I think that's an important little aspect.
I just said that.
A little side tangent. For me, when I hear you say that, it sounds like you're like, yeah, just go pick someone that you think is.
You don't hear me say that because you know me better. You go find. I just said that there are multiple talented black people that are qualified to hold those positions, and that's what you go do. You do go seek them out. You go seek out a woman, a male, a gay, or something like that. Of course you do. That's America, guys. It may not be your party, but it's time that your party taps into that.
So, one of the things, just again, throw out real quick, whenever me and you have had this conversation offline, the thing that I always come back to is, if I'm going to, let's say that I say, I'm going to consciously try and pick someone that's black, gay, Hispanic, whatever the hierarchy of intersectionality you're going to try and pick of victimhood. But you want to pick someone. Is it because like your mindset is like that you wouldn't pick that person? And because here's my mindset. Those things are so arbitrary to me, like they matter so little, it doesn't even come into play. But I do think that maybe there are some people that would meet someone that was different than them and be like, yeah, I'm not going to be cool with them. And maybe it's almost, it sounds like it's a thing that someone's a racist or like actually homophobic or like xenophobic that wouldn't pick someone because of that. That has never crossed
the Republican Party.
No, but I'm saying
the Republican Party.
I'm saying in every party, I think there are people that purposely don't surround themselves with people that have different attributes of themselves.
Yeah, the Republican Party.
I've never been like that.
You made it. We don't got enough time, but we know your party. Come on.
But I think you're wrong though.
Name me a homosexual. Come on, we got name me
Aaron Schock.
Who?
Aaron Schock, the congressman.
No, excuse me. That's in charge right now in your party.
Oh, in charge?
Yeah, in your party. Got a position. Locally. I'm saying locally.
I'll be honest with you. I don't. Those are things that are so unimportant.
None.
I don't know. That could possibly not be true.
You and I both know most of the leadership.
No, that's not true, man.
Unless they're in the closet.
Whoa, come on now.
I'm just being real. If they're in the closet,
maybe they're not in the closet, but they also just, it's not like they don't go. I mean, I worked a lot with the log cabin Republicans.
Yeah, I know.
Okay,
yeah. And so did the guy that went to jail for the damn child deal. That cat.
So Tevin, are you queued up for our new segment? I'm gonna let Jamar go first because I feel like Jamar needs to get something off his chest.
Listen. All the time.
Are you listening?
You got your 2 minutes up there, dog.
Damn.
I'm gonna get this off my chest. Rittenhouse is a kid that, because of his skin, is privileged. This guy is not a hero, and the way the Republicans and Republican media are making this guy out to be a martyr and get pissed off when people did that to George Floyd is, to me, asinine. This is a guy that, while it's okay and noble and heroish to protect a business, we're grateful for that. It's not noble and heroish to go out and purposefully kill folks because you have a weapon. Illegally, but because you have a weapon. I'll say this again. Rittenhouse will be acquitted because of his skin color, the state where this trial is residing in, and the fact that gun owners think that they have the right to do what the hell they want to do because they own a gun. And now, I'll be a gun owner too soon, but guess what? I know my limitations. Rittenhouse did not. Most gun owners do not. That's why you guys are making this guy out to be a hero. Well, I'll tell you what. Heroes, they died too. Heroes, they fought. They have big faults. And your hero now, Rittenhouse, what's his name?
Rittenhouse.
Somebody's. He too has faults. I'm sick of you guys making this guy out to be a hero and anybody like him. That's why Philando is no longer with us and a lot of other black men. We're sick and tired of being sick and tired of white folks taking up guns, shooting us, and getting away with it. They've been doing it for far too long, whether they're Republican or Democrat. They've been doing it far too long. I've decided tonight to get that off of my damn chest.
All right, now my time. I got something I gotta get off my chest here. So, I don't know if anybody saw this come out 4 days ago. There was a leak that came from someone in the governor's administration.
Are you listening?
And the leak specifically was between Jan Malcolm, the Minnesota commissioner of Department of Public Health, and the chief of staff for Governor Tim Walz. I've been saying this from the beginning, that there are really two ways that you can actually deal with a pandemic or any bad thing that happens in a society. You can either use authoritarian means, where you lie, you coerce people, you make people fearful. You can use that, even if the means, right, using those bad things will justify your noble end. You want to end a pandemic. But this email shows exactly what I've been saying, because you can either pick that option, which Walz did in his administration, or you can pick the path of freedom, in which you inform people. You tell people the truth, the best that you know. You use the idea that if people are armed with information and they are told what the risks are, that people will live their life and make good decisions in general. And that's the path to freedom. These emails show that the Malcolm administration was talking to the Walz administration to use fear and coercion, because the numbers weren't matching up with what would justify shutting down businesses. They even had a conversation about it. So what I really want to get off my chest is that we need to listen up as a people and understand that authoritarianism, forcing people to do things, even if you think it's justified, will always lead to more pain and suffering. Instead, choose freedom. People, if armed with good information, armed with good sources, will make good decisions. You got to trust people. So reject the authoritarianism, support freedom, baby. Just got to get that off my chest.
I'm glad you did, and that those emails wouldn't be anything like what Trump did when he said to Bob Woodward. No, nothing like that.
Completely different.
Yeah, right. Dr. Shah, man, appreciate you coming on tonight. Where can people go to find your website, to contribute, to volunteer, to do any of that?
Appreciate it. We need a lot of volunteers. We need a lot of donors and delegates. That's where we're going for the nomination. So it's electneil.com, electneil.com, on social at Neil Shah MN. And I appreciate the opportunity.
No, we'll have you back, please. You're a refreshing guy, and I appreciate you. You know, keep the good work up. I think that you stand a real good chance. You keep talking like you're talking, you're going to get kicked out your party, but I think you could win. Thanks for coming on tonight.
I appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely. You're a refreshing Republican. I'm Jamar.
I'm AK.
What do you want, man? What do you finna say?
Next week, just let everybody know we're going to have Jai Hansen on, who's running for Hennepin County Sheriff. Should be good. The week after that, we're going to be gone. So make sure to tune in next week. Appreciate everybody that watched the show. Make sure to listen on Anchor afterwards. Thank you for supporting the show.
Thank the best producer in the land, and thank you guys for staying a little bit of overtime. I feel like WeberMart. If you go over, thanks for staying a little overtime with you. I'm tuning to you guys next week.
Peace.